Welcome into the Lucas and Lucas podcast. We have reached the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Lucas Franco alongside Mike. Lucas and Mike, I tried to tell you, I tried to warn the city of Cleveland. Joe Flacco was doomed to crash and burn. I went on your show. The whole panel was like, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? Joe Flacco crashed and burned. The Cleveland Browns season is over. They got absolutely humiliated by the Houston Texans on national television. What do you have to say for yourself?
I mean, we all had our reservations that Joe Flacco would be that Joe Flacco he was during the regular season, but he wasn't the reason they lost that playoff game. Joe Flacco didn't play great by any means, but he had 14 points in the first half, was 10 of 13 for 175 yards and a touchdown, frankly. But let's not pretend Joe Flacco is why the Browns are not playing this weekend. Their defense, complete no-show. They got embarrassed, dog-walked, prairie dog, you picking a verb, an adjective. That's what happened to them against CJ Stroud and the Texans. And their defense was elite at home this season, pedestrian on the road. I don't have a real reason behind it, but I do know Joe Flacco came back to earth. It was bound to happen, and it happened at the worst possible time. I did enjoy your segment on the show, though, Frank. If anyone missed it, they should go back and watch it. That was a fun jousting match between you and some of the guys. But yeah, it sucked. Last Saturday was not a fun day of football.
I mean, I would argue they were in the game, and then Flacco threw back-to-back pick sixes, and then after that, it was basically pretty much done and over with after that. So they were in the game. Flacco threw back-to-back pick sixes on back-to-back plays, and
Real quick, but it wasn't back-to-back drives, not back-to-back plays. The first,
well, yeah, I mean,
six,
it's impossible to have, yeah.
the first pick six was objectively terrible. You will hear no defense. He said he was trying to throw the ball away, didn't have the arm strength, terrible throw. The second one was on 4th and 2, and there was immediate pressure. So he takes a sack, it's a turnover on downs, which is better than a pick six, but it is what it is. The better team won. I will make no excuses. The Texans beat the living dog crap out of the Browns on Saturday. Offensively, defense, special teams, coaching, you name it, Houston was better. So the better team won, and it's back to the drawing board for Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, and the rest of the squad for 2024.
So there's no question, there's no doubt amongst anyone's minds Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback week 1 of 2024. No doubt.
Even as good as Joe Flacco played, there was never a question.
Okay, why would they fire their offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt? Because I don't know what goes on in the locker room or what goes on behind the scenes, but seeing like what the Browns did this year, losing Nick Chubb in week 2, starting 5 different quarterbacks over the course of the season, integrating Joe Flacco off the streets in week 14 or week 15, and having him, sort of not skip a beat and, seamlessly fit into that team, that offense, and now you're making a change at the OC position. You obviously have a lot more insight about this than I do, but I was just honestly like really, really surprised because the Browns have a lot of issues, but I didn't think that their offensive coordinator, given the circumstances and the season that they had, was at risk of being fired at all.
No, well, Kevin Stefanski calls the plays. He's the de facto OC. Alex Van Pelt came with Stefanski in 2020. He wants a chance to call plays. Stefanski's not giving up the play calling duty. AVP had another year on his contract. I have heard from pretty reliable sources they had discussed a just different position on the staff, and AVP wanted a chance to call plays, and they agreed that it was best for both of them to kind of part ways. It wasn't that AVP did something wrong that they wanted to change from. AVP wanted more responsibility, from what I'm told. There's no real more responsibility you can get within the Brown staff than offensive coordinator when you're not calling plays. That's what Stefanski does. That's what his bread and butter was. That's why he got hired. So I don't think it was you messed up, we need to change. It was you want more, we kind of can't offer it here. Let's agree to go our separate ways and find a better solution for both of us. So hopefully that answers a little bit. It gives you a little bit of clarity. It wasn't AVP did a bad job, go find a new job. That's not the case.
I had no idea his nickname was AVP, but that's good to know. You like say these things like they're like everyone in the world knows exactly what you're talking about.
Alex Van Pelt's his name. He played quarterback in the NFL for a few years back in the day. So AVP was what he was called when he played, which is why I referenced that. But you're right. His name's Alex Van Pelt. Kevin Stefanski called
Scott's uncle.
Is that true?
Now I'm making stuff up. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it could be right. Scott's athletic. He's tall. So
anyway, so the Browns are out. The Texans are moving on. CJ Stroud, obviously, the greatest playoff performance in the history of the NFL by a rookie. Now they have to go into Baltimore and face the Ravens. Texans are 9.5-point underdogs. One of one of Bill Simmons' rules is beware of the team that looked too good the week before, and the Texans were essentially clicking on all cylinders
Yeah.
against the Browns. Now they have to go into Baltimore, against a vaunted defense and that head coach and that quarterback who's going to win the NFL MVP. I think that much like I predicted, Joe Flacco crashing back down to earth in a terrible way. I think CJ Stroud and the Texans will meet true reality in this game, and I like Baltimore to win by at least 14 points in this game.
I'm scared to take Baltimore in the points because of the garbage time touchdown potential from this Texans offense. And also, the Ravens haven't played in almost 3 weeks. They rested their guys week 18. They didn't play in the first round with the bye, which they earned. And listen, there's the whole rest rust debate. And I dug so deep, Frank. I was the only one in Cleveland. And I'm not even saying I'm right. I was the only one in Cleveland that said, I want Joe Flacco to play against the Bengals in week 18 because I don't think you can replicate what he's doing right now. And he definitely didn't have his best game. And I'm not even blaming Russ. I just thought he had captured magic in a bottle, and I was so terrified of anything kind of getting him off that rhythm. I'm not as worried with Lamar Jackson in this case, but I do think after taking 2 weeks off versus a team that's red hot right now, who's already won essentially 2 playoff games, the first quarter I like Houston. The next 3 quarters I like Baltimore. I would pick Baltimore to win, Houston to cover, but I do agree with you that CJ Stroud, as good as he's been the last 2 weeks, is going to have to match Lamar Jackson point for point. And I'm just not sure this Texans offense, especially that Noah Brown, is capable of doing that. The Browns defense was suspect on the road all season. They were at their worst against Houston, but I think Baltimore's built a little different.
I mean, Flacco came out of the gate. It's not like he started the game hot, so I don't think you can. If he had started the game cold and would look like completely out of sync, out of rhythm, then you have a point about the rest versus rest debate for Flacco not
Well,
starting.
he didn't start out hot.
He did start out hot. They were lightning fire in the first. I mean, that's the
They
first couple
started
drives
their first
great.
2 drives 2 and out, 3 and out, 3 and
Right,
out.
but then he got his groove, and then the second half is when he really fell apart. So if you're gonna so many times in the NFL, Mike, you can't base a whole opinion based on the opening drive of the game. Oh, if he would have just played the week before, maybe the first drive they would have gotten a field goal.
Let me ask this, Frank. Did Joe Flacco not score a touchdown on the opening drive of each of his 5 starts? Because he did. And then he went 3 and out and 3 and out. And once again, I'm not blaming Russ because the defense was terrible. For anyone who's rusty, it was the defense. I'm just saying, and in Joe Flacco's case, it's different because what he was doing, we all knew was unsustainable. You came on my show and said there's no way he can keep this up. I equated it to beer pong, Frank. I mean, I know you weren't the biggest partier in college, but when you're hot in beer pong, last thing you want to do is go to the bathroom. You want to just keep shooting and keep firing and keep firing. And as soon as you walk away, there's no guarantee that even if you've been hot all night long, it's going to come back. Even in basketball, you make 3 out of 3 threes. Coach takes you out for a sec. Well, yeah, you come back in, but that rhythm's gone. I'm not saying rust is the reason they lost. Trust me, they got their butt handed to them in every facet. And had they played in week 18, it probably wouldn't have made a difference because defensively they were an absolute abomination. But CJ Stroud just played arguably his best game of football last week, has now won 2 playoff games, one on the road, even though week 18 wasn't technically a playoff game, it was an elimination game. He's coming into this with all the momentum. I do think there is a little bit of rust to shake off when you take off nearly 21 days between games. I just think it's not even a knock. It's just the reality of a person, a body. You're just not as quick in rhythm. It just kind of is what it is. Our first day back from basketball practice after winter break was hell week for a reason. We didn't touch a basketball, just ran for 2 hours. Why? Because you take 3-4 days off, you got to get back in shape. Not saying Baltimore is going to be fat. That's not what I'm equating to, but I do think there is a little bit of rust to shake off, and that's why I like Baltimore to win. I like Houston with the points.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe the Patriots won a single Super Bowl when they didn't have the bye week.
I have to go back.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
I'm not sure, but it's also been 2 weeks though. The 1 week's different. 2 weeks is not something you occur during the regular season.
But the best example of this was when I was at summer camp. We played a Slam Taps tournament, and I played against if you know what Slam Taps is, it's like you shoot free throws, you have to get to 21, then you have to shoot a 3 and make the 3, and then your partner has to make the 3 too. But anyway, so I was playing against the best duo in the camp. Me and this guy against the best duo in the camp. It was 1 versus 16. I hit 21 straight free throws in the 3, and we beat him. It was like it was like a story of legends of how I just
and would you want to walk off in the middle of those 16 free throws?
No, and after we beat them, this was like the first round. we didn't play again for like 2 hours or an hour and a half, whatever it was. And then when I got back in, we lost our next game because my whole rhythm was gone. But anyway, that's the rest versus Russ. Who knows? Anyway, the Green Bay Packers stunned the Cowboys, and this to me was
I
by
didn't
far
see it coming.
the
Didn't see
most
it coming.
stunning result of the weekend. I thought Jordan Love would go in there, and the Cowboys defense would have their way with him, and Dak would do enough to get the win. But man, Jordan Love over his past 9 games has like 21 touchdowns and 1 interception. It is absolutely insane what he is doing. And I think Mike and Stroud is the counterpoint to this, but and Stroud's cases are,
Few
it's
and far between.
they're so rare where a rookie comes in, starts week one, and is able to just keep playing well throughout the course of the year. Usually for the rookie, they struggle when they're starting week one. But you look at the history of the league, Tom Brady sat for a period of time, Aaron Rodgers sat for a period of time, Patrick freaking Mahomes sat for a year, and now you're seeing Jordan Love his first full year as a starter after sitting for at least 2 years, whatever it was. And now he's starting his first full year in the league, had a chance to learn from Aaron Rodgers, learn how to read defenses, and now he's in the playoffs and he is playing probably as good, if not better, than any quarterback in the league right now. And this to me just further proves that while there will be anomalies like CJ Stroud, who start week one and play great and never look back, the majority of the time when you start a guy rookie week one, it's probably not the best for their development. I think Jordan Love, once again, add him to the list of guys: Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, now Jordan Love, guys who sat, watched, learned, and now are flourishing because they weren't thrown in the fire right away. I think it makes a huge difference for their careers.
Yeah, add Eli Manning to that list too. Two-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning, who sat behind Kurt Warner. I agree with the premise that it's good to have a young quarterback, a rookie, take time to develop, learn how to be a professional. But I think it is ludicrous to be like Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be Patrick Mahomes if he just started week one.
I
Like
mean, who
I
knows?
just think,
I mean, who knows how
yeah,
who knows how it would have been different for him? Because Patrick Mahomes wasn't this surefire number one overall pick in the draft. He went, I believe, 12th to Kansas City. Like, I remember before the draft that year, like,
it was
I obviously I wasn't a huge fanatic at the time, but I don't even remember like watching too much of Mahomes and like hearing so much about how great of a prospect he was. It was he's got potential, but he's so raw. So like, who knows if he would have started week one, how things would have turned out for him.
I think more than like a lot of it has to do with situations. Like if you put CJ Stroud in Carolina this year, he's not the same player. And you put Bryce Young in Houston, and he probably has a much better rookie season than he did with the Panthers. So situation plays a huge role in it, and talent around the player. And usually these young rookies who get drafted first, second, third overall come to teams that are pretty barren of talent. And that's what makes this Houston Texans ride so interesting and so unique. Is it's a pretty talented roster offensively and defensively. And then they get the quarterback, which is kind of the final piece to make them a fun team to an actual legitimate playoff threat. Unlike Carolina, is there 3 legitimately good players on Carolina? Like you have Derek Brown,
Oh yeah,
Mason Rudolph. Like
I'm not arguing about that.
so, I just think the position matters. But back to your Jordan Love point, he's playing out of his freaking mind right now. They annihilated and give Matt LaFleur credit for just like the Browns Houston game. Matt LaFleur had Dan Quinn in the torture chamber on Sunday afternoon from 4:30 to 8:30. They had no answer. They had guys running wide open. Jordan Love's making beautiful throws off his back foot. He looks Aaron Rodgers-esque, which could play to your point of sit and learn. And he definitely has some Aaron Rodgers to him, which is a compliment because I'm talking about on the field, not talking about off the field. He's got some Aaron Rodgers in his game. And I think this week, San Francisco and Green Bay, I love the over. Like it's another 9.5 point spread. San Francisco is a team when healthy, in my opinion, is the best team in football, and I think they're going to be able to score on Green Bay. And I know San Francisco's defense is good, but I think Green Bay could also score on San Francisco. It's 50.5 on FanDuel right now, and I love the over.
I would not, if you told me right now that Green Bay wins this game, I would not be shocked at all because honestly, like, if you had a gun to your head, who's the better quarterback, Brock Purdy or Jordan Love? I think I would choose. As crazy as it sounds, I think I would take Jordan Love at this
Love's
stage.
more talented. There's no doubt about it. Love's way more talented.
Like Brock Purdy is in my mind, and I think everyone probably would agree with this. He's the weak link of the 49ers because you look at, I mean, McCaffrey's all pro, best running back in the
Maybe.
game. You know, they have George Kittle, top 2 or 3 tight end in the game. They have Ayuk and Debo are lethal on the outside. They have an elite defense with Bosa and Fred Warner and a bunch of other guys and Chase Young. But quarterback, you're playing with Mr. Relevant against, Jordan Love. And Jordan Love, based
And
on what we've seen, and this is another beware of the team that looked great the week before,
they're playing good.
but this is a scenario where I do believe that the way the Niners have rested their guys, no one is
Wait, you,
playing
you
that.
can't tell me you're worried about the Niners resting their guys and not care about it in Baltimore's case, you hypocrite. Come
No,
on.
I'm not. I just believe that the Packers are
It's the same
so.
scenario in both games. You can't
But no,
tell
no,
me
no, no,
that
no.
you
No,
like the
it's not though.
momentum of
Because
one and not the other. They both won. Winning, you're in playoff games in week 17, crushed the team in week 1 of the postseason. It's another team they're playing is rested guys for this is tick for tack, same scenario. And you
no,
can
but
tell me
we've seen the Niners this year. The
chances.
Niners are a little bit fraudulent. As much as everyone thinks they're this behemoth team, I'm not worried about. I think Baltimore is so well rounded in terms of the quarterback, the playmakers, the running backs. I have no concerns about Baltimore. The only way Baltimore loses is if Lamar Jackson forgets how to play football.
Which is a concern.
But But Brock Purdy and that 49ers team, we've seen it this year where we've seen them
Who has
hey,
more playoff wins, Brock Purdy or Lamar Jackson in their career? Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy has one. Lamar's never won a playoff game. Yeah, bro.
No, Brock has 2, Lamar has 1.
All right, whatever it is, Mike. I
I'm just
think
saying,
that,
like you can't say Lamar and you like I hear you and
but
I
I
agree with
think,
you.
but here's the counterpoint. The counterpoint is the Texans just got lucky because the Jaguars absolutely choked their way out of the
That's
playoffs.
fair. That's fair.
And the Packers were the hottest team in the league down the stretch. Jordan Love is playing better than any quarterback in the league right now, and I think they are so scorching hot right now that if they were to win the Super Bowl, Mike, to me anything is possible with the Packers. And
It's
we
funny
can go back next
right,
week when they lose 48-3 to the 49ers. You can laugh in my face, but I'm
no,
just telling you right
I
now,
think they can
Jordan
make this a
Love.
game. I'm just laughing at how you're like rust versus rest doesn't matter, but I think the hottest team in football right now to win the Super Bowl,
No,
which goes into momentum and listen, Frank, I agree
in
with everything you said.
The Browns Texans case, it didn't matter. It did not matter.
Everything you're saying, I
Flacco was
legitimately
so
agree.
fraudulent, it didn't matter. He was bound to, whether he would have played or rested, it wouldn't have mattered. Jordan Love.
Everything you're saying, I don't disagree with. I think the Packers can make this a game. The weak part of the 49ers entire team is not Brock Purdy, in my opinion. It's their secondary. You can throw the ball against them. PJ Walker, when they played Cleveland, moved the ball in the air against the secondary. They're a little banged up back there. Jordan Love's playing as well as any quarterback in football. The Packers defense is not very good. It's not. Tommy DeVito and Bryce Young both had their best games against that Packers defense, and neither of those two quarterbacks showed us anything this year. I agree with you 100% that Green Bay can win. I agree that Baltimore is going to win. I just think it's funny that these situations, it's not apples and oranges. This is like a green apple and a red apple. Yes, they're different teams, but the situation is exactly the same. And on one hand, you're like, it doesn't
the Browns
matter.
were never
and on
winning.
This end, you're like, yes,
the
it does.
Browns
yes,
were
does.
never winning with Joe Flacco. It was never happening. You could
this is not with the Browns. This is now Ravens, Texans, Packers, San Francisco. This is a green apple and a red apple. They're both.
I think the talent levels.
Like this.
Hang on, the talent levels between the Ravens and the Texans are there's such a huge gap there. The Texans are going to be so overmatched. Packers will not be overmatched because Jordan Love is just a man on an absolute heater right now, and there is nothing or anyone that can stop him. I'm just telling you right now. The Green Bay Packers.
I literally have not disagreed with you. I'm just laughing at the fact that you are looking at these two games, which are literally a red apple and a green apple.
No, I don't. They're not though, Mike. They're not.
It's okay. It's okay.
Because I'm telling you, the Texans have no chance to win. The Packers have a very strong chance to win, in my opinion.
I'm gonna clip that when somehow Houston beats Baltimore and the Niners smoke Green Bay. So we'll come back to that. But I agree. I'm picking San Francisco and Baltimore to win. I agree with you.
And one of the reasons why I don't like San Francisco to go to the Super Bowl is because I don't trust Brock Purdy. I think that when it matters the most and backs are against the wall, you need him to make a play. Can he do it? I'm not really sure.
Brock Purdy in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I mean, if he would have
3 touchdowns, no picks, 600 yards in 2 games.
All right, well, this will be a big test for him. Let's see what he's made of. The Eagles are an absolute debacle. This was the most predictable outcome of the weekend by far. I didn't think they would lose I thought they actually put up more of a fight than they did, but man, I don't know what the root of the issue in Philly is. They need a new coach. I think a lot of it has to do with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is such a, you know, uncharismatic player. He's very quiet. He never talks. He's not like firing up the guys on the sideline. Every time I look at Jalen Hurts on the sideline, he's sitting very quietly with like a blank look on his face. I just don't, I question what, I know, listen, they were, a defensive holding call away from maybe winning the Super Bowl last year. So maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but when I look at the Eagles and I look at the way they collapsed this year, I think that's a true lack of leadership. And I think that starts with, and as you could argue, who should be the emotional leader team, the head coach. I think Jalen Hurts lacks the motivational leadership, the alpha in the room guy that you need to have on your team to overcome collapses like we just saw with the Eagles.
I don't know Jalen personally. I don't watch them closely enough. It seemed like he was a damn good leader coming in Alabama when Tua went down and leading them to a leading them to the SEC championship win over Georgia and then helping them win the national championship. He goes to Oklahoma and they have their best season in a while. So who knows? He was in the Super Bowl last year. He was the front runner for MVP before the season. He had a bad year. He was hurt. That whole team collapsed. I don't look at it as a Hurts thing. I think their defense was once again atrocious. I don't know if is the question, is Jalen Hurts a good enough leader? Like, I think from what I've seen, yeah, he is. They were in the Super Bowl last year. Is Nick Sirianni a good coach? I don't know. Because when you lose two coordinators and your team falls off a damn cliff like that and you start 10-1 and collapse in the fashion they did, you have the lowest point differential of any 10-1 team in the history of football. That comes back on you. And I'm not ready to write you off yet, Nick Sirianni, but you're going into the hot seat 2 years after you won the Super or you lost in the Super Bowl. So there is a lot of questions he has to answer moving forward, Frank. And if you ask me this time going into the season, is Nick Sirianni a good coach? I would have said absolutely. And I honestly have no idea. I honestly have no idea. Was he a merchant? Not a merchant. Was he a result of having two elite coordinators last year, and Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen? Maybe, maybe, because he was terrible this year. And the way he handled the end of the season was an abomination. So he gets one more pass from me, but it's coming up close.
So it was confirmed today that the Chicago Bears will be taking Caleb Williams with number one overall pick because they're interviewing what the hell is his name? The former Arizona Cliff Kingsbury for their offensive coordinator position, who was an assistant at USC under Lincoln Riley. So it's all confirmed. So the Bears will be trading Justin Fields and they will be selecting Caleb Williams, which is 100,000,000% the right move. They lucked into this pick and they should absolutely take advantage of it, take a generational talent. And I applaud the Chicago Bears for recognizing the opportunity in front of them and trade Justin Fields, get a second or third round pick, and move forward with Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and the rest of that team. A defense that played really great down the stretch, and I think they're making something pretty special in Chicago now that they're going to hire Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. Meanwhile, latest Allen Mahomes showdown this week. Mike, who do you give the edge to in this game? Buffalo currently favored by 2.5 points over KC.
I'm going to be honest, Frank. I did not like what I saw from Buffalo on Monday. I know they got off to a 21-0 lead, but had Mitch Trubisky, not Mason Rudolph, excuse me, not thrown an interception in the red zone, Pittsburgh Steelers were in there. And I think Pittsburgh's not a good football team, especially that TJ Watt. And I know Mahomes is going on the road, but this is the kind of game where it's easy to write off Mahomes, and on paper, Buffalo should be the favorite. And it's the Chiefs aren't, and the next thing you know, Mahomes is back in the AFC Championship game. So I give the edge to Patrick Mahomes in the postseason because until he proves that he can't be the guy to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, he's earned the right to. And Josh Allen's playoff stats are awesome. But if you're making me pick in a game that I think is pretty damn even between Andy Reid and Mahomes and Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, taking the guys in red 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs got really lucky getting to face that Miami team that was sort of like the Eagles, where things were going great and wherever they were just going in the wrong direction, and Casey just actually took advantage of them. I think if Casey had to face Buffalo in round one or possibly anyone else in the AFC, their season ends. But they got a huge break with Miami. They got to get re-energized and get their mojo back. I think they got their mojo back. So I would not be shocked at all if Casey pulls the upset here. And I hope they do, because I think it's hilarious whenever the Bills collapse in the playoffs. So something obviously we'd love to see. But the last thing before we go, because I'm a little bit of a time limit here. Yankees signed Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman a couple years ago blocked me on Twitter. I don't remember why. So I'm really conflicted because I can't root for a guy who blocked me on Twitter. So I've messaged him. I've added him on Twitter. I've messaged him on Instagram. He has not responded to me. I'm still blocked. So until it's almost like if he like goes and he stinks up the joint for the Yankees this year, I am going to eviscerate him. So he better be ready because as long as I'm blocked, there's no holds barred here with me and Marcus Stroman. So he better learn his lesson and unblock me as soon as possible.
What was the contract?
2 years, $37 million. And if he gets 140 innings, that gets to the third year of the. And he's putting all this all smiley face, like, oh, anything with being Cashman in the past is gone. I love the Yankees, love the fans. Like, if you really love the fans, then he would unblock me. That's all I have to, that's all I have to say about it.
Here's a PSA to Marcus Stroman. Marcus, you don't want the wrath of Lucas Frankel. He's an engaged man now. He has plenty of time to pester you on Twitter and make your life a living hell if you decide to see it. But don't block the man. He's the biggest fan you got. Trust me.
I think he made some comment a couple years ago about the Yankees, like about how they like no one wants to go there or something like whatever. I don't remember what it was, but he is so thin-skinned to block. Let's call it Mike, a nobody like me on Twitter. Like,
Yeah.
I responded to him one time. I'm not like sitting here
Yeah,
replying.
you're not a constant. I'll defend Frank. He's not a guy who's just constantly spamming athletes' Twitter.
No, and I don't know what something he said just like really, really just got under my skin, and I replied to it. I don't remember what I said. Couldn't even recall what I said. But the fact that he is so thin-skinned, where he made the decision to just block me out of the blue like that, like, man, and do you think you could handle pitching for the New York Yankees? Listen, I guess I hope he succeeds, and if he wins the World Series, then all is forgiven. But until that comes, like, there's no margin for error for Marcus Stroman at the Yankees. Sorry.
Are you gonna go to the first game he pitches at Yankee Stadium?
I already made a pact to myself. I will not be going to another Yankee game as long as Giancarlo stands on the team. So no matter what,
You won't even make an exception just to boo Marcus Stroman.
no. I mean, the only exception, I will go to a playoff game. I'm not going to a regular season game as long as Giancarlo stands on the team.
Will you go to a regular season game at a road ballpark? Let's say Cleveland, for example. Would you go to Cleveland to boo Giancarlo Stanton?
I guess I would go to a road game, yeah. But as
Marcus
long as
Stroman, don't you dare pitch on the road in 2024, or you will feel the wrath of Lucas Frankel.
I just know that like when he in that first start when he gives up 8 runs in the third of an inning, like you're gonna get destroyed. So be ready for it. That will do it for this edition of Lucas.
Wait. If when the Yankee season rolls around, on days Marcus Stroman is pitching, you must turn on Twitter notifications for Lucas Frankel. That is going to be must-see appointment X.
I mean, this is I would say the most conflicted I've ever been with the Yankee signing in my lifetime. Like when they signed Johnny Damon, I was excited. This is like the first time where I've like legitimately disliked an athlete that the Yankees ended up signing. That like I'm really struggling to how to deal with that because the Yankees have always been my team. I've always supported all the guys in the team, at least from the beginning. And then once they, collapse in the playoffs or get hurt, like Stanton or Ellsbury or whoever, or Aroldis Chapman, then things start getting. But this is like the first time where, from day one, I'm like sort of not liking the player. So we'll see how it plays out. But I got to run, Mike. See you next week. Chiefs going to the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens and the NFC. The Green Bay Packers against the Detroit Lions. Mark the tape. See you next week.